Home Podcast time.
That's right. Binford Tools is proud to present a home improvement podcast. My name is Adam. You all know my co-host, Jordan. Jordan, happy New Year. 2019 is upon us. Let's talk home improvement.
2019, baby. I'm sure you have several New Year's resolutions related to home improvement, but maybe we'll get to those later. Instead,
if you go to the Chinese restaurant and you look at the placemat, actually 2019 is the year of
Tim Allen?
Home improvement. Some year of the dragon, year of the rat. This is a year of home improvement. So
yeah, it comes around once every millennium. So that's pretty important. So I mean, as we start 2019, maybe we should look back a little bit to 2018 and what we did over our long break. I know our fans have been suffering without us, but we're here to fill them in on what we've been up to.
Jordan, for me, since the last time we spoke, really it's been about preparing for The Masked Singer on Fox. So just getting my rations around, making sure furniture's all set up, and just kind of putting my phone in airplane mode, soundproofing my walls, making sure that I don't have to leave the house or be disrupted for anything. So yeah, I mean, Christmas was great, New Year's was great, great to see family, presents, etc. But really, yeah, I've just been getting ready for The Masked Singer on Fox.
Yeah, you came home early for that, right? You had a longer trip planned, and then you had to cut it short because you forgot initially and had to push back.
I came home and I was a nervous wreck because I didn't have everything prepared.
You almost got into an accident?
Oh man, a couple of them. And I was like, should we continue the podcast? Because I don't know that I'm going to be able to give it my full undivided attention with The Masked Singer coming. But
lucky for you, this episode does not require undivided attention.
No, I know. Yeah, and I remembered it's fine. I can do both. So yeah, I mean, The Masked Singer, that's really been most of what I've been up to lately, and I'm going to go ahead and assume ditto for you.
Yeah, you can just I echo all of your sentiments about that show.
Okay, yeah, let's just let's just isolate what I just said, and why don't you just put it right into here, we'll just play them back to back in the podcast so that we can just save ourselves some time.
Save ourselves some time, but also buff up the time limit that we have in our recording here, because sometimes they're short and we gotta get close to an hour. So content.
2019 is the year of content and
year of home improvement and year of content. Adam, we should say
I have something I actually do want to talk about.
All right, early on in the show,
if you don't mind,
please.
So I was, we've had Christmas has been pretty spread out for us. We're recording this in the new year, but a few days ago we were visiting my girlfriend's, her parents are divorced, so we opened with her father, we opened with her mother, both were very nice, and I got I got too many gifts, in fact, a night of too many gifts, but, we were opening at my girlfriend's mom's house, and it was in the morning, and her grandma was there, and there was maybe 10, 15 people there.
Wow!
And it was a lot of people, and I was opening up a gift, and Eva, my girlfriend's mother, had written that she got me a gift, and it was from Tim the Toolman Taylor, and she wrote it on the gift because she knows about the podcast. So I had to, you got to read out what it says on the
of course you do.
card, and I was like, it's from Tim the Toolman Taylor, and everyone's like, why?
What are you talking about?
Why does it say that for?
So then you have to explain it.
I just I hung my head, and I overheard her trying to explain it to. I don't even know. There were some people that had just kind of come in from the street, some neighbors, and she was talking about how at first she said a home improvement blog, which is partially true, and then she kept going, and I saw the look in their face, and just like their eyes went dead and color drained from their faces, and they were just thinking, I don't care about any of this. But meanwhile, I opened up a nice pair of suede boots, and all was well in the world. But every once in a while, the podcast comes up, and
it's never a good thing. It seems like
after I don't know if this has been 3 years, but I'm just still not really equipped to talk about it.
Yeah, it seems like every time it comes up, my story changes a little bit. I try to refine it, and it never really works. I did find myself telling the story again of how you were in a Chicago high-rise talking about the podcast in a job interview. And
super, super bummer for me. Really sucks. Did not get that job, by the way.
What? Maybe if we took, the hours a week that we collaborate on this podcast and start working on some of your screenwriting or book ideas that we have, it might be more fruitful. But
I know. I don't. For whatever reason, we've settled on this, and I don't know.
Now that we're 115 episodes in, we kind of...
I know. Yeah, I can't really turn back now. But yeah, I don't know. I gotta figure out a way to. I mean, whenever it's brought up, I sort of just hang my head, and if there's another room, I go into it. Or sometimes it's like you ever watch a cartoon and someone runs through a wall, and there's just like dust is there, and there's a hole in the wall that looks like the thing that ran through it. That happens from time to time.
Or it's like one of those things where you're on a rug and you keep running, the rug keeps sliding and you can't go anywhere, so you're stuck. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's bad. Yeah,
sometimes I'll run and I'll try to run away. I'll be like, I don't want to talk about this, and there'll be a banana peel on the ground. Slip on it, hurt my back. All these things have happened.
And then you reach a cliff, and you go over the cliff, and you look back at the camera, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm going to fall.
Oh no, I'm going to fall soon. Yeah. There's too many cliffs around Milwaukee. It's been really frustrating. No one told me it was going to be so cliffy.
Cliffy. Jeez. Wow.
Not to be confused with Clippy, the Microsoft Word mascot.
Miss him dearly.
Hey man, I'm going to surprise you. Do you have anything else you want to say before we get into what I'm going to call the meat and potatoes?
As you always do. No, I mean, we talked about hopefully getting together, but it didn't quite work out with timing and running around. So that was kind of a bummer, but you know what? We're kind of like two star-crossed lovers, home improvement lovers who just never meet up,
I said that on the phone to you. You didn't laugh at all, but I see you liked it well enough to reuse it and co-op it as your own. I'm so mad you stole my joke. I can't even talk. Your own. Sorry, I was thinking about the Orville Seth MacFarlane show on Fox.
Oh man! All right, what were you going to share?
Jordan? No,
let's get into the meat and potatoes.
No. I was sad we couldn't get together. I feel like this has been one of my busiest Christmas's December seasons to date, and yeah, we just neither one of us had a lot of flexibility, and I thought about surprising you in Frankenmuth, and just Frankenmuth's not that big. I probably would have just hung out at Zender's, and eventually you would have walked by, and you'd have ran and jumped into my arms, and I thought we'd do something like that, but I had to get home. So
well, maybe next year.
Probably.
Probably not. Well, we tried. We were incommunicado, and we were trying to make it work, but didn't work out. So I guess another year where we don't see each other, which absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, I'm not. That has not been true for me necessarily, but I am glad to hear you say that. All right, Jordan. You know what? 2019 year home improvement, year home podcast. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time.
Uh-oh, what's that?
And, Jordan, I think you better get ready for some bits of wisdom.
Oh, no. All right, here we go.
It's all safe to me. Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Now it's time for Bits of Wisdom. This week's bit of wisdom comes from brainiquote.com/authors/Tim_Helen. Dad needs to show an incredible amount of respect and humor and friendship toward his mate so the kids understand their parents are sexy, they're fun, they do things together, they're best friends. Kids learn by example. If I respect Mom, they're going to respect Mom. This has been your bit of wisdom.
And that is that's a great cold opening for this episode, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I planned it. I opened up the page and I this was the one I read. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be back for good, but it was back for this episode. So, flood our inbox if you love that.
Surely that will happen. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, to start the episode, I guess we can get into episode 115.
Whoa,
a lawnmower
what's
goes
going
by.
on?
This is kind of a return to all of our old type of stuff that we had going on. Maybe we'll get user reviews in at the end.
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
All right, so
episode...
Wait, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. Oh my goodness. You're excited about your alternative titles.
It's so the opposite.
Hold on,
yeah,
I gotta
man.
talk about the episode title and the details and stuff. Alright, episode 115 is Tanks for the Memories, written by Bruce Ferbert and Lloyd Garver. They last did High School Confidential, which was the last episode that we did of the TV show. Aired January 30th, 1996. And we should get this out of the way now. This episode is not in sequence, so there's a lot of like continuity errors. For example, like all the kids they look younger. They're wearing clothes that they would have worn the year before, and like Jill, it's January, but Jill is watering flowers outside, stuff like that. So this one obviously was just kind of moved around where it needed to fit in the episode. So there's going to be a lot of those errors. We won't dwell on them too much. But the title is a reference from the song Thanks for the Memory, composed by Rolf Renger, with lyrics by Leo Robin, introduced in the big broadcast of 1938 by Bob Hope and Shirley Ross.
No, I want to add something to that as well. Now, wasn't that on Now That's What I Call Music Volume 3?
Do you have all those still?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez. What are they on now? Now that's what they call Music 59 or something?
Well, much higher. Probably 69, actually.
I'm going to find out. Definitely worth it. Oh, they have, like, special ones that are, like, party anthems and stuff like that. I don't like that.
You better get that one.
All right. I think they're in the 70s or something like that. So, all right. That was worth it. Now, Adam, I think you were pretty excited to get to your alternative title, so I should let you tell me how many you have.
5.
All right. Well, I only have 3, so you gotta lead off here.
Okay. What's the actual episode title? Thanks for the Memories. Okay, here we go. Let's start with Thank You, Don't Come Again.
All right, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
DEFCON Tim.
I know. Say it again, sorry.
Sorry, you won't even let me share mine. DEFCON Tim.
DEFCON Tim. Good stuff. Here we go. Taylor's Last Stand.
I like that one. You weren't excited about your titles, but you've got some good ones. This one's pretty generic, but here we go. The Gender War.
It is generic.
Yep. Could be for anything.
These are getting weaker. Here we go. The Battle of Little Baby Tim. I had the first couple words, and then I was like, "Oh, I gotta land this somehow." So,
all right, this is my last one, and I hope my best one. G.I. Jill.
Yeah, have we not used that before? I don't know. All right,
when would we have used that before?
Maybe the Colonel came to town.
Wait, the Colonel's always in town.
Hey, Jill, I heard you're going attack.
Wouldn't you have loved the Colonel to pop out of a third tank in this episode?
Yeah, he's smoking a cigar, and he's calling everybody wusses and stuff. That'd been cool. All right, let me get these last 2 out, because they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
This one, double entendre? I don't know. The Mess Hall. I underlined mess 3 times, so that maybe
keyword.
You can't see it, but I did
keyword.
Last one. Board games.
Yeah, I almost did that one too.
Should have. It was good.
Well, they get a little excited at the end, but all right. Let's open on the greatest episode of 2019 so far.
Yeah, it was good to start out with a real humdinger with this one. Really good stuff.
We opened with an Armed Forces salute. Al, we get this again. Al was a Navy Seabee, which my grandpa was a Navy Seabee. Al is pumped up and talking about the armed forces, and Tim kind of cuts him off, and I think Klaus plays some music to also shut him up. It's like a wrap it up box, you know?
it is a lot like Wrap It Up Box, and I don't know if you felt this way because of your grandpa, but if I'm Al, I'm looking at Tim and saying, "Hey,
back off.
Where'd you serve?"
Yeah, I don't know where he gets off. And if they're doing a show about armed forces, like, why not?
Yeah. With their ages, they both could have served in Vietnam. Just throwing that out there.
All right.
Just keep that in mind. Moving forward.
Just bring in the facts. Just bring in the facts.
Bring in the facts. Yeah.
What else do they bring on?
Billy McDougal, Colonel of the military.
Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel, and Tim's former buddy from high school.
Convenient.
And this guy cuts an impressive figure. He looks the part.
Yeah, he's tall, wiry, strong. He's got they're ribbing each other back to their high school days. And they quickly move on to tank tools. And I guess this makes sense, but I've never thought about it. All these tools are so giant, and, they're wrenches and all sorts of things, but they're for tanks, so they're extra, extra large. It looks like something you'd see on, like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. There'd be a wrench on the ground, and the kids would be shrunk or something.
I haven't seen that one, but I've seen Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. Similar premise?
Just opposites.
Okay.
And Tim, there's some physical comedy here where Tim struggles to lift up the tools. And then Tim kind of cuts to the chase right away. He wants to know, can I drive a tank? And they agree to it for some reason. Al is concerned that this is going to be a bad idea because he knows Tim well. He's been on the show with him for hundreds of episodes, and he's still concerned even after Lieutenant Colonel McDougal says there's going to be 10,000 troops to keep their eye on Tim. He says that's not enough, which I laughed at. I thought that was kind of a funny line.
It's not bad. Colonel Billy McDougal, Colonel Lieutenant, is played by Tim Grimm. Jordan, that's
Colonel Lieutenant Colonel.
Tim Grimm. He has 35 credits to his name. Best known for Clear and Present Danger, Mercury Rising, Backdraft, and The Insider. Those are three pretty good movies. So good for him. He was also in Detroit 187, which was a short-lived TV show in 2010. But we're both from Michigan, so you got to bring it up.
Don't have a choice.
So yeah, that's Tim Grimm. He's okay. He looks the part. I don't know if he necessarily brings the heat, but got a heck of a name.
Tim Grimm, that is true. At home, Jill is outside watering flowers in January, as I said earlier. Tim comes home, he shares the news. He's going to California to drive a tank, and initially he's not going to bring Jill. He's just going to go by himself.
Yeah.
And we don't even get like a tool time on location here, which would be really strange for him to just go out to California by himself. But
Tim Taylor is not a middle-class hero. Working-class hero. He can afford to go to California on a whim.
So he does, but Jill says, you're taking me with you, and we're going to do some cool stuff together. And we get this early and often in this episode. They talk about how women aren't allowed to drive tanks. They are now. I think that was
I looked it up. It's crazy. It just happened like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was the combat stuff. They're not active combat stuff.
Yeah, I know, but that's nuts.
It is, and they tackle it here.
This episode came out 20 years before it happened. Man, you know what?
It's like Blade Runner.
Society moves slow, far too slow for my liking. But yeah, Jill. Jill is all of the sudden, and I say all of a sudden because, we've got her backstory as an army brat, and we've had not enough appearances of the Colonel, in my opinion, but some. But all of a sudden, she's really interested in all things military, which we have just not gotten before. And she's knowledgeable.
And she's just really knowledgeable is what surprised me. She hasn't really displayed that at all.
No. Eventually, Tim agrees to take her out there, and she is excited. And the plot thickens.
Sounds like we're gonna have some fun in California. So.
Oh man, yeah.
At Al's apartment, we move quickly over to Al's apartment. We haven't been here for a really long time, and it looks the same. It's it's got all that bachelor feel. It's got all. I
kind of wondered if we were ever going to come back because it's been seasons. I mean, we've never seen it a ton, but I guess it was good to be back. He's got more stuff. It seems like this time. Also kind of weird stuff like that. later on, or maybe it's this scene where the camera starts and it's zoomed in, and for a second you think it's the Tool Time set, but it's actually just a model that he has on a shelf, which I would like you to get me for next year's gift exchange if possible.
Well, that's not going to be a surprise.
Yeah, okay. If you can find it for under $15, that would be a surprise.
Al is tidying up as the boys arrive, and Tim and Jill are going to ship them over here for the duration of the trip. So they don't get to go like they did up north into Traverse City at this. Was that the start of this season? I don't know.
It was, but it may as well have been 10,000
90 years
ago.
Yeah. All right, so they're going to be stuck here. Eileen's away at a conference, so it's just going to be the boys, and they're going to have a carefree, wild weekend.
How many conferences and summits does Eileen have for being an orthodontist? Is
she's a speaker, a very popular speaker at these conferences.
How do you know?
There's no other reason that she should be going to so many.
I've never known an orthodontist personally. I've known some, impersonally, but yeah, she's really on the go a lot. I mean, in so much as I had braces, so I knew my orthodontist.
I know where you're going with that, but
I
like the way you phrased it. No one's ever phrased it that way before. I knew an orthodontist impersonally.
That's going to be the title of our dual autobiography that we're doing, because neither one of us has done interesting enough things on our own to get a book out of. But if you put our lives together,
I'm not sure
you get some stuff.
I'm not sure if we combine them, we could make even a short story. So I don't know about that. But.
All right, yeah. So
how are we going to start this carefree wild weekend?
I want to say before we get to that Tim walks in and says, "You having no life really helps us out," or something like that.
Great way to send your boys off.
I know, but it is funny. It is a funny line. Yeah, it's going to be a super lame time with Al. Apparently, they can't touch anything, and he wants them to play Parcheesi.
I thought in the past we've gotten the idea that Al was actually kind of a fun babysitter, so this was a little bit different.
Yeah, not a lot of consistency in the writing. It turns out when you have new writers coming in every season, they forget the minor details, I guess. What is Parcheesi? You ever played?
I've never played it, so I can't really tell you. But I do know that the winner gets some sort of crappy treat in this case, and the boys aren't excited about that. So.
Oh yeah, what is it? Fig Newton bar or something?
Yeah,
or low sodium rice cakes. Yeah. The scene ends. Al tries to relate to the boys because they're frustrated. They're not in, they're not in California. About a time that Al wasn't allowed to go to Amish country, and
he's still kind of bitter.
Yeah, in the end, he can't really talk about it. So.
Poor guy.
And the hits keep on coming. The boys are back in town.
Them boys back in town. All right, we're going to move on base. Tim and Jill are with Lieutenant Colonel. Like you said, Jill is hot and heavy with her military knowledge here. She knows all about these tanks as they're walking up and down this line of tanks. She always loved tanks and always wanted to drive them. This is something she's dreamed about, apparently.
And we've gotten this in a lot of other episodes, so this is not a surprise.
I always noticed when they were in those bedroom scenes, her light was tank themed. It had a tank base. And
if you look in every episode, she has a shirt with a tank on it. I don't know. It's people like trivia on this show, so I'm going to give you guys some trivia. Is that every episode, Jill is wearing something with a tank on it: hoodies, dresses, scarves.
If you don't see it, you're not looking hard enough.
Gotta pause. Isolate, like the CSI guys do. Isolate, enhance. Is that a tank on her shoe? Yep, matter of fact, it is.
Sure it is. All right, so Tim starts to climb into a tank as they're talking, and the officer surprises Jill by agreeing to let her drive one as well. Tim thinks this is a bad idea, mostly because he's a selfish jerk, but also because he says she has the knowledge but no hands-on experience. I don't know where he would have hands-on experience, but then he proceeds to shoot up the base, and I don't know if anyone dies, but I think...
I was envisioning who's the documentary guy that does the long Civil War stuff, and he's done baseball, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, Ken Burns.
I was thinking some Civil War music would play, and it'd be 12 men lost their lives that day in the battle of Little Baby Tim.
But why would they let him stay after this,
The sergeant called their wives and said, "Don't make supper for these men. And life was never the same.
Yeah. The bugle plays.
Yeah, and they get out a bag of bugles because they don't have dinner.
Different bugle,
this
but
is gonna be
our
worst episode we've ever done. Keep going.
So yeah, no one dies, I guess, or at least they don't mention it later on base.
Because Tim's all about that bass. No treble.
No treble.
The obstacle course is treble in so much that it's trouble for Tim. God, what a nightmare.
What are you talking about? What is going on? Look, why don't you let me take this, you weirdo?
I got it, man. I got it. Obstacle course is set up. Tim's cocky. We get in the tanks. We get like some tank cam, some close-ups, a lot of like voiceover work between everybody. I don't know. Tim sucks, as you would expect, and he like runs through a sign, and eventually he ends up on a golf course and
really close to the base.
Yeah, I thought that too. I mean, in my head, I was thinking like maybe they just like have a golf course there for the sake of recreation. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. You'd probably just have a weight room or something. But that's how I rationalized it. I
like that the people don't run until like he's right on top of them. Like they can see a tank coming for them, but they're not concerned.
Here's what I was really surprised we didn't get. I thought when I saw the golf course in the tank, I thought we were definitely getting a 4 joke. Like. Yeah. I was so ready for that. And frankly, a little disappointed we didn't get one.
No, I thought about making that into a title, but it didn't really work. So
we should have score and 7 years ago.
All right, 6 for you this week, I guess. Later in the mess hall, Tim wants to drive the tank again, and Lieutenant Colonel McDougal says, "No way." They're eating some roast beef on toast, which sounds terrible.
Chipped.
Jill's... What?
Chipped beef.
Oh, chipped beef. I'm sorry.
Did you look at the menu? Looked pretty good though. They were. I mean, for breakfast, they were having some good stuff that day. So
they had. They even had like a supper after dinner. So late night snacks.
I know. I got to be honest though. If I'm having chipped beef for lunch, I'm not going to need to eat a real big dinner.
No. Well, you're always keeping those portion sizes small. Keep yourself trim anyway,
Oh, man, I don't even... with the holidays, I've just been eating. And I tell you what, man, it is tough this time of year. Some of you dangled chipped beef in front of me right now. I think I'd have to eat it.
You'd hop at the chance.
Mm-hmm.
Jill is feeling really good right now, and Tim is, being a baby, as you talked about earlier. And the whole base is talking about Jill and Tim, good and bad. And things start to turn for the worse as, they're at the table here. I think another officer comes over, and they're all kind of chatting.
Yeah, you talking about Lieutenant Colonel Hall, played by Vaughn Armstrong? I'm only going to say one thing about Vaughn Armstrong. Him and Tim Grimm appeared together in the film Clear and Present Danger. That's kind of interesting.
They're kind of a package deal.
That's why you come to this podcast. You get stuff like that. Stuff that you may not forget.
You may not forget, if you're lucky. Things turn for the worse, and the lieutenant colonels both leave as Jill and Tim kind of start arguing. After Jill is trying to defend Tim, and Tim turns into even a bigger baby here, because he's like, "Don't defend me, blah, 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 blah." So it gets a little messy. A little messy here.
Would you say the plot thickens here a little bit?
I mean, let's just say the gravy is all over that chipped beef.
Yeah, that kind of sounds good, but also sounds disgusting. Like, I guess like I'm cool with like eating a sandwich that has like gravy on it. Like I don't know, is it like a hot turkey gravy sandwich, something like that? That's a thing. I've had those before. They're not bad, but for whatever reason, like chipped beef, I don't know. All right, next scene.
We're at Al's. The boys are playing board games, and they are bored, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
They played Parcheesi. They just finished Scrabble. They're trying to move on to Chinese checkers when Brad says, we can't. It keeps us up too late because we get too excited. So that marathon is cut short until Al talks about a board game he invented, which is the Tool Time board game.
I was surprised to see this. I didn't know that this was ever a thing on the show. We've talked in the past about the one I picked up at the Goodwill in Batavia, Illinois.
Hanging out in my closet right now.
Currently hanging out in your closet collecting dust. It's not the same thing.
No.
But one has to assume that game was sort of loosely modeled off of this, wouldn't you think?
Which one came first is the real question.
Well, one has to assume that this one came first and the other one is loosely modeled off of it, wouldn't you say?
I assume you're correct.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I mean, the game, it looks cool. The functionality is questionable. Basically, every card you pick, Tim has, made some kind of a blunder, and Al comes out the hero. At the end, sparks come out of the board, which I would buy a game that
seems
that
dangerous.
Seems like pretty cool, though. It looked cool. Probably the best part of the episode, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, probably. The board game electrocutes characters and stuff, and there's an interactive ambulance. Probably a pretty expensive board game. I would say the only downside of this board game is that Randy gets electrocuted one turn into the game.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty quick game. Maybe that's a problem for some people.
A lot of people think board games last too long, so this could be a solution.
This is, this isn't in the middle though. This is at the far other end of the spectrum. So I think you got to find some happy medium here.
Yeah, I agree. Playing, Sorry, that's a pretty quick board game. But Monopoly, that can last a long time.
It's no Risk, if you ask me.
I've never played Risk, nor have I played Settlers of Catan. I tell you one thing, though. Board games are expensive.
They are expensive. It's a good industry.
I don't know why we don't break into that. Maybe when we're done with this today. All right. Tim is...
back home?
Tim's at the fence, and I was kind of wondering. I was thinking during this episode, are we going to get Wilson in California, and how are they going to do that?
I wish we would have.
I'm just out here visiting an old professorial pal at Berkeley. It just happens to be, but no, we didn't get that. Wilson, he's barbecuing bulbs. This scene is really about as nothing as it gets because Wilson's basically just Tim is being an idiot and a baby in this episode. He has no foundation to stand on, and Wilson is just kind of maybe don't be such a jerk. And Tim's never thought of it like that, and that's it. I mean, it's a very nothing scene in my opinion. Maybe you disagree.
No, I agree. His advice is recognize her accomplishment. It's in kind of an insane episode, really.
Yeah,
there's not really a conflict here that. It should be happening, so
that's why they probably knew this episode kind of sucked, and that's why they shelved it for a long time. Maybe.
Yeah. Did we play a clip?
Do we? No, we're not. We're not doing those in 2019.
Oh, you resolve in 2019 not to play any more clips.
You're getting bits of wisdom, but you're not getting clips. No.
That's helpful for me. It's easier for me.
I mean, we'll do clips. We'll do clips moving forward, but this one, worthless.
Not worth it.
Not worth it.
Yeah. So. No, I guess if we were going to play a clip, it should have been the board game. You're right. That was the best part. So.
Yeah, mostly visual, though. All right, moving on. Here we go. Boys come home. Everything kind of really wraps up quickly in this one because we spent so much time in California. Boys come home. This was weird. They said we had a great time. Al let us watch monster movies and popcorn with a lot of butter on it. Yeah, so are we to assume that after the Tool Time game, everything was just super copacetic and Al became chill? What is that all about?
It just got off to a rough start. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I would have expected this reaction in general because every other time they've been together when he's babysitting, they had fun, they played putt-putt, they did whatever. So even the start where they were just kind of bored. Maybe they were just bummed because they didn't go to California and it wore off after a while.
You know what this episode does right here? You know what this episode does that you're really script writing 101. It tells but doesn't show, and that's always effective.
That's rule number one.
Rule number one: tell, don't show. Why show something when you can express it through dialogue late in the episode? All right. Anyways, Tim, he's just spoken to Wilson, and he's learned the error of his ways. So he comes in, and the boys ask about the tanks, and Tim says, "You know what? Before we talk about how I did with the tanks, we should really give your mom some credit." And he, fakes that he's excited and gets into it. The boys act like they're impressed, and everything's really, really good. And the boys rush upstairs. Tim apologizes. And Jill forgives him, and everything is good for another week here on Home Improvement. One final scene. Somehow there's a tape of Tim, on the tank, and they're gonna watch it. So roll credits, fade to black. Thanks for the memories. Hey Jordan, hope I don't remember this one.
There's probably some errors in what you just talked about in the last two scenes, but I'm not going to go ahead and correct you because I don't want to talk about this episode anymore.
What? No, it's. I was telling, not showing, and as long as you do that, you're in the clear. So there you go.
All right, nickel for your thoughts, Adam.
Bad, really bad. Probably one of the lesser episodes of the season, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of them because we've been doing this season for a very long time. But yeah, I did not like very much here. The conflict is stupid, sucks. Tim's being a jerk. Even like we don't love those Bob Vila episodes as much as most people, but like at least when Bob Vila and Tim race, like I don't know, it's somewhat of an event. This tank stuff is just like nothing. I laughed very sparingly. I just really didn't like this one. It was a tough one to come back to, but I know it's going to get better. It has to.
It's nowhere to go but up from here. What was the idea for this episode? Like how did this one get through? Is what I'm wondering.
I think you got to do so many episodes in 1995. You got to do like 26 episodes, and must be there's just not always going to be a good idea. And
just get the tank. Get Tim in the tank. That was the idea. So
Tim the Tank Man Taylor.
Oh boy, there's another one that we missed out on. So I agree with everything you said. The only real interesting part, I guess, was the board game part, and yeah. So let's move on to Sean's social media corner. What do you say?
Let's do it, Jordan.
If you'd like to reach out to us, go to thehomeandpodcast.com. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Home and Podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/homeandpodcast. That's where we do bonus episodes. We just did a Christmas Prince and Rush Hour. And for January, I guess this is a good time to do
What's worse, Christmas Prince or this?
This, actually.
Yeah, probably worse. Even though it's like, much, much, much shorter. It's probably worse. Yeah.
I'd still rather trudge through a Christmas Prince. They showed instead of told, as we talked about. And that was the biggest difference.
Yeah, I hate it when I'm told anything.
All right. So January being a time for resolutions, we're going to be covering the new Netflix, what is it, documentary by Marie Kondo, the Art of Tidying Up person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's going to be really good. I can't wait for that.
I know little about it, I don't even feel comfortable commenting, but I said I don't want to do a movie. But for all you people
who are looking to clean up your house or whatever, we're going to have some tips and tricks on our next Patreon episode.
We're up here. We got this 2-bedroom place, but there's just no storage, and I'm going to be talking a lot about that on our Patreon bonus episode. So if that sounds appealing to you, a guy complaining about his lack of storage, you're going to want to subscribe to our Patreon. It's going to be good.
Yeah, and we're still keeping open, probably for the month of January, $1.
I'm going to throw a crazy idea out there, maybe just forever, because it doesn't seem to matter either way. But we'll talk about that later.
Limited time offer, baby. You can also support us for free by going to your podcasting app and leaving a review for us, of which we have one new review, and I suppose we could talk about it now before we get into your Twitter schemes.
Yeah, that's fine. We got pretty close to our goal here. We solicited 5. I think we got 3, so 3 out of 5 is not bad. In baseball, that's a good batting average.
That's right. You'd be breaking records if you're doing that all year. So we've got 33 reviews on iTunes now. The newest one is by Number One Steven, and it is titled 5 stars, and it is 5 stars. And it says, "Great podcast. I love home improvement. I love podcasts. Best of both worlds." Thanks, Steven. We think you're number 1 too.
Yeah, I think that I know this guy personally, but I'm not sure it could be another Steven. So either way, thank you. If I don't know you personally, man, I'd like to, because you sound cool.
You know what,
If I do know you personally, keep it real, Steve.
I'm thankful that Steven did this on Christmas Eve. What a guy.
I saw that, which I don't know. Maybe I don't know this Steven, but I think on Christmas and Christmas Eve, you're always just kind of looking for a way to get away from everybody. So he's probably like, well, I'll get away and review my favorite home improvement podcast.
It'd be funny if he wrote like a novel on there just to spend more time doing it.
It'd be funny if he wrote a really negative review on Christmas.
He's feeling real Scroogey.
Yeah.
All right. Adam, you've been tweeting some stuff.
Yeah, pretty successful tweeting in the new year. Nothing. I'm not going to go back and I don't remember the last poll, but I had a Richard Karn Bird Box tweet that I was pretty proud of last night. So if you want to check that out, it's good. Me and the Karn man, I don't know. It must be we both kind of privately resolved to be, stay in closer touch this year because I feel like we've been kind of like liking each other's tweets and kind of having back and forth on Twitter for a long time. So yeah, I mean, good to have the Karn man back in the fold. Personally. With me. Other than that, follow us on Twitter. Getting pretty close to 600 followers, which pretty cool. So, I mean, kind of cool, I guess. Ultimately, it's all kind of meaningless, but yeah, sure, 600 followers would be something.
Ultimately, it's all kind of meaningless, and that is the kind of hopeful stuff that we can expect in the new year from our podcast. Yep. So that's great. Mm-hmm. All right, Adam. I mean, were there any polls going on at all?
I told you, I'm not going to go back. It's like we did an episode like a month ago. I'm not going to scroll all the way through Twitter to find that poll.
You're such a baby.
Why don't you listen to me when I'm talking to you?
Well, if you started to say something more interesting, I'd be listening.
Only 100. All right. I can't wait till this podcast is done. We never have to talk to each other again. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, we were purposely avoiding each other on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, the funny thing is I was in Frankenmuth the day you were going up there, and I just wanted to avoid you. I found out you were going to Zender's, and I just camped out at the Bavarian Inn.
I was going to say, you headed across the street.
I went to Bronner's, and I just hid in a massive sleigh.
Oh, man. I thought I saw a moving Santa, but...
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
All right, I guess it's my turn for the question of the week.
Please.
What a great episode to have the question of the week, I could say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Adam, neither of us are in the military or have been, or really would be useful there. If you were going to join a military branch, which one would you pick? What's your favorite?
Oh, man. What are my options again? Navy, Air Force, Army?
You can do Marines, you could do Coast Guard, maybe even National Guard.
It's an interesting question.
Is it?
Give me, well, in so much as I don't have an answer right away. First of all, I want to say, really respect the troops. Secondly,
Heck yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to spend a lot of time at sea, so maybe not Navy. Give me Air Force. Yeah, give me Air Force.
Yeah, you'd like to be in a plane, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Just the whole idea...
You've got good enough vision, I think. Isn't that part of the requirements? You have to have, 20/20 vision or something?
Yeah, and I suspect I do. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of rationale behind it. Actually, Coast Guard's probably the move. Stay kind of away from everything, but I'll give a real answer.
I have a cousin who's been in the Coast Guard, and he's been traveling around. He was in Maine. He's now in the Florida Keys. He's
I'd
been
love
around.
to be in Maine. Yeah. I should choose that one because I want to go to Maine. Yeah, give me Air Force. What about you?
Yeah, I can't... the one time that I was on a boat for a large ship for a significant amount of time, that was not good, so I can't imagine. And I've heard stories from my father-in-law. He was in the Navy, and he said he doesn't ever want to get on a ship like that again. So I would say probably not that. And, the sad thing is that my asthma would keep me out of any of these things, but...
Yeah, it's super sad for our country, because I know you could help a lot.
I'm kind of like Ant-Man. I'm that little guy, and then, I can do all the... Or I could be a super soldier, like...
What's your answer, Jordan?
I think I would say the Air Force, too, but I don't think I could even fly, so...
Me, you, Top Gun.
Yeah, I think, Marines, they have... I think that's who they're visiting in this episode, right? The Marines?
Yes.
Yeah. They've got a little bit of a... I feel like they're... I don't know. I don't want to get too much...
Pride.
Yeah, a lot of pride there. That's the word. So that would be a cool group to be a part of, I guess. But I know...
What is this, a PSA? Let's wrap it up.
I don't know. We're falling apart here.
Twitchy territory. Good question. What are we covering next week?
I think the last 20 minutes of this episode might not make it to the final cut. But...
This is gonna be a 20-minute episode.
All right, next week's episode, it's gonna be a real exciting one, the vasectomy one.
I think that one is at least known, so maybe there's gonna be some good stuff in there. Nothing funnier than vasectomy. I mean, yeah, I'll look forward to you talking about yours while we're on there. Listeners, thank you for listening. Jordan, thank you for joining me. I swear it'll get better from here this year. Take care, everybody.
Jeez. Take care, everybody.